To the best of my knowledge, it really isn't very used. Not nearly as much as the International Code Councils.
Good, because, you know, as I read through this, a lot of this, I have no expertise, plumbing, electrical, and all those kind of codes. I have to take it that the organization has designed and did this with professional standards that me, as an elected official, can count on as being the proper construction of properties.
Right.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
I have some more questions.
Yes,
but
Trustee Desmond.
it's on the fire sprinkler part of this, so I don't know if Don knows anything about that.
You can ask, the chief is here. If I can't, maybe he can answer.
Yeah, I just want to clarify a couple of things. It says approved automatic sprinkler systems in new buildings and structures shall be provided in all locations where the fire area is greater than or equal to 3,500 square feet. I mean, what is considered the fire area? Is it like
Trustee
just a living
Desmond,
area?
that's not really a change in our code. That's been in our code for the last 35 years. And a fire area is basically the square footage or the area of a building between your firewalls. Now, a firewall can be different for different buildings. You know, for instance, the hospital has multiple fire areas, but in our typical buildings across the street, you know, on 95th Street, it would be basically one building. You know, I mean, the code is designed where if you want to get around a certain section of the code, the ability is there to design around it. If you don't want to put sprinklers in your building, you can keep your fire area to under 3,500 square feet, and you can do so just by putting up fire walls. There are certain requirements for a firewall, but it can be done that way.
And what about single-family residential?
That is not in this code. That has been stricken from the code at the suggestion of the Planning Development Commission. We're going to come back at a later time and discuss that.
Okay. And the commercial remodeling, if someone is renting out, you know, a new commercial space, is that considered new construction? Would they have to install sprinklers?
You know, depending on, you know, in an existing building, if they do not have sprinklers and let's say they're over 3,500 square feet, again, if they're under 3,500 square feet, we're not having this conversation. If they're over 3,500 square feet and a new use comes into that building, a use that is the same as the previous, they would not have to provide a sprinkler system. If it's a change of use, if it goes from a woman's boutique selling clothes to a restaurant, that would be a change of use, and that would probably initiate a fire sprinkler. Something of that magnitude, yes.
How?
But again, that's not new in our code. That's been in our code for the last 35 years.
So yeah, nothing is changing.
Nothing's changing.
Okay.
Not in that respect, right?
Okay, so it's just. Well, if nothing is changing, why are we voting on it?
Well, again, I mean, we have to upgrade our codes, our code books every so often, and you know, their publishers, they have to change a few I's and dot a few T's new, and there are a few new smaller code changes in there, but the basic things that are that have been, you know, of concern, the sprinkler systems and stuff like that, majority of those have not changed.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you,
Any other
Don.
questions or discussion? Okay, please take the roll.
Trustee Desmond?
Yes.
Trustee Carberry?
Yes.
Trustee Vorder?
Yes.
Trustee Quinlan?
Yes.
Trustee Oliniechek?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, item 10, this is a request to approve the Planning and Development Commission referral for a 62.9 parking and miscellaneous variations at 5851 West 95th Street, This was a 8-0 vote to approve by Planning and Development, petition 2014-02, Richard Schmidt, petitioner in District 3. We did receive an email from trustee Straight saying he was not able to attend. He said this is in his district, and he would prefer the item be tabled in his absence. Would anyone care to make that motion?
Motion to approve.
Okay,
I
so,
would make a motion to table.
okay, so we have a motion to table. Do we have a second?
Yeah, we're motion to
Okay.
approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a
Motion to
motion to approve by trustee Oliniechek and a second by trustee Carberry.
And now we have a motion to table.
Yes.
And now a motion to table by trustee Quinlan. Is there a second? Okay, that lacks for, that dies for lack of a second. We're going back to the motion to approve. We have a motion, a first and second. Any discussion on this item?
Yes, Mayor and trustee Quinlan, I just wanted to say I respect and, him not being here in his district, but however,
Yeah,
and
his
something like
dad's
this,
really sick,
I
so.
I
mean,
understand it, but the
he's
business
not showing
still,
any respect.
business still needs to go forward. And there's some of the, what I instructed, I said if the businesses are impacted and, we need to go forward, I said we should be voting on it. And if there's something that we could, like the committee of the whole, I said, let's table that. But if it's something that's going to affect our people, anyone in Oak Lawn and business and revenue, we got to move forward. So I'm not disrespecting your motion. I understand where you're coming from, but I just wanted to explain myself and my thinking. That's all.
Well,
Trustee Quinlan?
I appreciate that, but I would like to ask the manager, can this not wait 2 weeks? It's in his district, and obviously, I don't know, I'm assuming
Sure,
that
I'd
he
be
has
more
some
than happy
concerns and
to address
questions
that.
about it.
Be more than happy to address that. I happened to attend, as did trustee Carberry, the planning commission when the petitioner was present. And there's in your package a list of all the adjacent property owners that by our ordinance requires that they're notified. There was not a single objection. Presentation was thorough. It was an 8-0 vote. It would have been 9-0, but one of the commissioners could not attend. And it's always been procedure that when there is a unanimous vote, it immediately goes to the village board so that the applicant can begin the work of securing bids for demolition and securing bids. Spring will not be long around the corner, longer than I'd like it to be. But that's what builders are doing now. They're starting to take bids and line up their contractors and subs for the work. So traditionally, we would never table an item of this nature. There
Well, I
was
think-
absolutely zero opposition expressed. It went through the entire public process, trustee.
Yeah, and trustee Quinlan, he did not give one reason for why he'd like it tabled. There was, the petitioner is present. I asked him if, and his name is Mr. Richard Schmidt, or Rick. He said he was never contacted by trustee Straight with any concern whatsoever. And I'll
Well,
let you
part
have
of
the
that-
floor.
Yeah, part of that could also be with his dad's illness and being in the hospital and everything,
Yeah,
so.
if he could take the time to email, he could certainly say what his concern was.
And I just
Yeah.
read the email as well today, but I do have concerns, when I see a 62.9% parking variation, that concerns me.
Well,
And-
trustee, if I could on that, it's something that our planning commission has for probably over a year discussed, and you'll see in every package, we have an unusual, outdated ordinance as applies to parking. So almost every single medical applicant who's come before the board in the last year, whether it's Little Company of Mary or Bluestone, they do the same analysis, and a 4-to-1 ratio is very common in Wheaton's, Naperville's, other communities that Oak Lawn would benchmark against. And the commission intends to make a change because it appears like there's a large variation. There really isn't a large variation if you look at more updated codes. So the planning commission, working with Mr. Gallagher, should have that done, I would hope, by late spring, come before the board. They're not asking, their actual parking design, they're building a deck. This is probably one of the first projects that's building the deck. Bluestone had a underground parking garage, and they eliminated that. And they downsized their building. They were gonna have 3 stories, they went to 2 stories because they decided they could not afford the structural construction costs. In this case, the applicant has a deck going forward, and that's a sizable expense to make the project in line with what the code calls for. They're also considering some mixed use, which is something this board and the planning commission have asked for. If they're able to secure some retail on the first level, that's what they would like to do. They're out marketing, actively marketing some of the space for some compatible retail. Could be along children's clothing lines or women athletic clothing and/or related small eateries that would serve customers going to the various physicians in the building. But the parking 4-to-1 is very comparable to the projects you've approved in recent, I'd say in the last 24 months.
What about the variation from the property line instead of, what was it, instead of 20 feet, it's 10 feet or something like that?
There's utilities that surround the building. Actually, ironically, this is a site where ComEd for months parked a truck propping up a defective power line. And the owner of this property abuts residential property to the south, and the landscaping and the design of the parking deck, I believe, will provide even more of a, what I would call a security and a buffer zone for that neighbor, which now has no landscaping and a surface parking lot and an easement you cannot build on because of the power lines in that area.
Because they weren't planning on putting up any type of masonry wall or anything like that, correct? That's what I was reading. But they are doing landscaping, and it's going to be tall landscaping?
If-
Should we call the petitioner up to
I think
answer
that
that
would be,
question?
that would be a good idea.
Rick Schmidt, would you care to come up, please? Let's come to the podium, please, and I don't, yeah, you could take those just in case they're needed. I'd appreciate it, thank you. Josh, would you be so kind as to bring the easel, if Josh is here or whoever is available? Thank you. And could you please state your name and your address,
I
please?
am Rick Schmidt, 707 Clinton, Oak Park, Illinois.
Thank you. And Trustee Quinlan, feel free to ask anything.
If you could answer that one question then about...
Yeah, here's the picture that you're asking about, the drawing. This is the issue down here. It's the residential, there's multifamily residential here.
Right.
And we are landscaping it pretty thoroughly. It's a 10-foot. The code requires, or is asked for a masonry wall, but we're building a parking deck, which the end of this elevation will be a masonry wall, be a precast concrete, but a nice looking wall. So if we were to build the wall, first of all, we have an easement at this area also. So our variance asked for the omission of that masonry wall with the thought that our deck actually serves the purpose of the screening. That allows us to put the landscaping area between that 10-foot setback and zero, which is much more than what they have. If we were to build a wall at the property line, it would just be, they'd be looking at a wall and there'd be no landscaping at all. So I should probably talk over here. But,
Right, okay.
So in this sense, it adds to the value of the neighbors to the south. That's the
Okay.
thinking there.
And just from reading this, you anticipate that it'll all be medical, or?
We don't know right now. Medical is committed to the second floor entirely right now.
Right.
So we're looking at, as Larry had said, we're looking at other options also, whether it's retail or office or medical. So we're open to.
I think, obviously, I definitely prefer more retail versus medical. I
Right.
think that does a lot more for Oak Lawn, but I'm going back to the parking variation, and I hear what you're saying. I don't know what that percentage would be based on how we are changing our codes.
Ratio of
but-
parking will be around 4-to-1, trustee, and that's about.
So the variation would be what? Like, what would be the percent? Right now, it's 62, but if we made those changes that staff is looking at, or what the normal,
A 4-to-1, which they're providing, is what most communities that we benchmark again, and which the Planning Commission has been looking at, provide. So when you see the variance that they're asking for, and it says 62%, that jumps out of you, at you, and you said, boy, that sounds like
Right.
quite a variation. And it's not.
so
it's
there would
not
be
a-
no variation then, is what you're saying, if we were filing a different,
If you were building a medical building today and you were in a community that had an updated ordinance relative to parking, 4-to-1 would be a good sweet spot. That's a good ratio.
but that would be for medical, does that also include, and then if the lower level was retail, where you're gonna see more cars, I would imagine, if you have retail on the lower level?
Well,
So is that still the same case? I'm thinking of the future. Right now, it could be fine. There's nobody on the lower level. You don't know who's going to be on the lower level.
I don't think you're going to see the type of intense use that you would have when you look at the array of retail that would go with a professional medical building. I don't see that you're going to see much difference in the parking that they're built. 4-to-1 is a nice ratio.
Okay.
We have trustee Vorder wanted to make comments, and then trustee Desmond. You have a gentleman with you. It
Yeah,
looked like he-
Tassos Chronopoulos.
It looked
He's-
like he wanted to say
He's the-
something. Sir, would you care to come? Did you? Yes, please come to the podium so everyone can hear you.
He's running the project.
Okay.
There's two doctors are the owners,
Great.
and Tassos is basically running the project for them,
Okay,
so.
Very good. Could you please state your name
Yeah.
at the microphone, sir, and
I'll let you spell your name.
your firm?
My name is Tassos Chronopoulos, Chronopoulos. Pretty long one. I just wanted to make a clarification here. The areas that we're talking about, this area here is nothing else but Commonwealth Edison wires and columns that they go left or right. So the alley here, what we have done in this area is beautified, basically because there is nothing else we can do except move the columns, but we can only use the columns. So this is really beautifying the two properties. This area here is also Commonwealth Edison wires. So nothing here makes anything nice. So the deck, the garage that we have, and here it is.
Here's the existing conditions. So here, I mean, this is asphalt, 100% asphalt. The property line here, this is the property line where we're landscaping, right here, and as you can see, it's not pretty.
In fact, there's no way that you can put grass here, it's gonna die. So this is the reason that we're putting the trees, so we can cover the wires, and come across somehow nice. And the framing of the garage is not just precast concrete columns.
No.
They're transoms, they're nicely done so that we can beautify what these people are looking at every day that they wake up in their apartments.
It serves as a backdrop very well for the landscaping, it's gonna be very nice.
So what we're doing really, we do not know if this landscaping is going to stay alive without taking care of it, because the site is very narrow. But we're picking up trees that they can survive in some light. So this is one thing that I wanted to discuss, and also I want to clarify something. The commercial units that we hope to get in this building are going to be related to the usage that they have on the second floor, which are medical facilities, which means a small boutique store for children, because they will be there and there'll be a guiding person. with all his other doctors and associates. And in here, we try to do a health club, some type of a club, that women can come in and lose some weight and buy some stuff. So the parking issue of calling it commercial is not one of a big restaurant or a big shopping center, or it's just small boutiques, because the space is not there to engage a large tenant to come in. So maybe I have answered your concerns.
Thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
all I have.
Thank you very much. Trustee Vorder, you have the floor.
Oh, yeah, Madam President, I just, out of respect for the trustee, I just wanted to know what his objections were, that we tabled it, but you've answered it for me, and the presentation is excellent, so.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Desmond.
My question was along the same lines as Trustee Vorder, or out of respect for Trustee Strite, who couldn't be here. I just wanted to make sure that he didn't have any concerns. And, I mean, has he had any concerns with planning and development
I
or
have
with you guys?
I have not heard any, no, frankly, no.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion on this item? Okay, so we're going to call the vote, please. We're voting on item 10.
Trustee-
Motion, no, we have a motion.
We've got the motion.
No, we already
Yeah,
had it, yeah, yeah,
We're ready to go.
yeah.
Trustee Desmond.
Yes.
Trustee Carberry.
Yes.
Trustee Vorder.
Yes.
Trustee Quinlan.
I'm voting no based on the fact that trustee Strite had made the request.
Okay. And Trustee Oliniechek.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
Okay, thank you. We're moving on then to item 11. This is ordinance 140411, an ordinance granting certain variations to allow for the construction of a medical office building at 5851 West 95th Street.
Motion. No, I'm sorry. Motion to approve.
Properly moved by trustee Vorder,
Yes.
Second.
seconded, I think that was trustee Oliniechek. Any discussion on this item? Please take the roll.
Trustee Desmond.
Yes.
Trustee Carberry.
Yes.
Trustee Vorder.
Yes.
Trustee Quinlan.
No.
Trustee Oliniechek.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
Okay, moving on to item 12. This is ordinance 1402, and congratulations, gentlemen.
You too.
Ordinance 1404-12. This is an ordinance amending Title I, Chapters 6 and 7 of the Oaklawn Village Code pertaining to the creation of a committee of the whole. I need a motion, please, on item 12.
Well, that's what we were gonna say.
This
We're
is
gonna
the one,
table
did you
that.
care to table that?
Yeah, we can table
We have a motion by trustee Carberry to table, seconded by trustee Vorder. Any discussion?
Can we just make a motion to postpone to the next meeting?
There you go.
Okay, so we're going to modify that motion then, trustee Carberry, to postpone to the next meeting. Are you still good with that, trustee Vorder? Okay, let's take the vote, please.
Trustee Desmond.
Yes.
Trustee Carberry.
Yes.
Trustee Vorder.
Yes.
Trustee Quinlan.
Yes.
Trustee Oliniechek.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Item 13 is Resolution 140406, a resolution approving an environmental remediation agreement between the Village of Oak Lawn and Environmental Protection Industries. May I have a motion, please, on item 13?
Motion to approve?
Properly moved by trustee Desmond,
Second.
seconded by trustee Quinlan. Any discussion of this item?
I had one question.
Yes, trustee Desmond.
This is for Mr. Deachin. Does something like this need to be put out for bid? I mean, is there RFPs on this?
Actually, it's professional services, doesn't require bid, but when we first selected this company, we interviewed several firms, and they have done all the environmental work at Stony Creek Promenade at 111th and Cicero. It's also important to make sure that they're certified and respected by the State of Illinois Environmental Protection Agency, because if there is anything found in the ground when we excavate at that area, we want to make sure that we do have a company that is recognizable by the IEPA.
And is there only one company that's you feel comfortable with?
There are other companies that do this work. This is kind of the premier firm, if you will. They're a South Holland, so they're a Southland area firm that have done a lot of work on remediation, particularly in the South communities.
Thank you.
I may add to the board that when we closed on this property, the muffler shop, they were required to contribute, so there was roughly